Well, I've been asked to go through a couple of answers. So this is from Student Assessment 2. I'm going to look at questions 5 and 6. So I'm just going to do 2 from each. So let's start with question 5A. So question 5A is 5 squared times 5 to the power of -1. Now I'm going to solve this in 2 different ways. The first way is by saying when I multiply, I just add the powers together. So this is 5 to the power of 2 plus -1. Which gives me 5 to the power of 1, which just gives me 5. Now, the other way I could have done this is to say a negative number belongs on the bottom, right? I have to change it. So -1 means it actually should be on the bottom as a +1. And then when I'm dividing, I just subtract them. So this is 5, 2 minus 1, which is still 5 to the power of 1, which is still 5. So either way, you'll get the same answer. I don't mind which way around you do it. Now, 5D is a little bit trickier. There's more stuff going on here. So let's start with 3 to the power of -5 times 4 squared. And all of that goes over 3 to the power of -6. Now, remember, a negative power means it's in the wrong place. So this is going down and this is coming up. So I've got 4 squared times 3 to the power of 6 over 3 to the power of 5. And then these ones match, so my base numbers match. So when I'm dividing, I subtract my powers. So this is 4 squared times 3, right? Because 6 minus 5 is just 1. So that gives me 16 times 3. And then all I do is multiply 16 by 3. So 10 times 3 is 30. 6 times 3 is 18. That gives me 48. All right, so that is question 5. Question 6 is much trickier. So let's go through some of that. All right, so question 6A, let's look at that. So 2 times 2x plus 2, let's put brackets around the power, equals 128. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out 2 to the power of what is 128. Well, let's count up. We've got 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 to the power of 7 is 128. So what that tells me is that this has to equal 7, right? So 2x plus 2 must equal 7. And I can just solve this like any linear equation. 7 minus 2, x equals 5 halves. So it's okay that things are fractions. You could say that this is 2.5 if you want, but 5 halves is a perfectly acceptable answer. We're allowed to leave things as improper fractions. Now, I'm going to do 6D. That is a particularly difficult question. Okay, let's look at 6D. So what I'm going to do is write the question out first. This one is particularly tricky. 8 to the power of -3x equals 1/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how do I get this to turn into that. So this one's pretty tricky and requires a little bit of creative thinking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these two numbers and say, I know how to talk about both of these in terms of 2. I know that the cubed root of 8 is 2. And I also know that 2 squared is 4. Right? So there are a couple of different ways that I can think about these numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by thinking about what I need to do with that. So I'm just going to kind of ignore this for now and just say, how do I turn 8 into 1/4? Well, first of all, I'm going to rewrite them both as 2s. And that's going to help me think about how to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about how, okay, so I'm starting with this and I need to get the 8 into a 2. So actually I need to take the cubed root of 8 and somehow turn it into this. So again, I'm going to think about how to write it as a power. But what this does is this gives me 2. This doesn't give me half, does it? If I need to turn 8 to the power of a third into a half instead of 2, well, how do I get the 2 to flip into a half? Well, remember, negative powers are going to turn things upside down. So I can make this 8 to the power of -1/3, and that will give me half instead of 2. All right, so I'm already working on my fraction here. So this means that 8, whoops, hang on, let's not write it like that. 2. Oh no, that is what I wanted to do. What am I doing? 8 to the power of negative 1/3. Now, how do I get that to turn into a 4? Well, I'm going to need to square it somehow, right? So if I'm squaring it on this side, I need to somehow think about how I'm going to square it on this side. So what I'm going to do is try and square both things, right? So this is going to get me 8 to the power of negative 2/3 equals 1/4, right? Because I'm just squaring top and bottom. So this becomes 1 and this becomes 4. Now, this is now a true statement. But what I found out before was that negative 3x has to equal negative 2/3. So I need to make these two things equal each other. All right, now this is where it gets even trickier. So if I need to get x by itself, I'm going to bring this across as a division. But because I'm already dividing with fractions, we don't want to do 3 lots of division. That's really confusing. So I'm going to flip it and multiply. Remember, we don't divide fractions. We're going to flip it and multiply it. So x equals negative 2 times negative 1 is just 2. 3 times 3 is 9. So x equals 2/9. That's what x needs to be to make this true. Now, this is a very, very difficult question. If you were having trouble with that, I really wouldn't worry too much about it. This is on the very far extended end of this topic. And if that was something that was really difficult for you, don't freak out. All right, I hope that was okay. And I will see you guys next time.